Recently, in an episode of the Culture War podcast, I was asked what I thought about the intelligence agencies, and I said they are abject evil. And I don't think there's any argument from a leftist perspective or liberal as to how they would not be abject evil. We have this story, and I'll get into that, why I bring that up. Is Elon Musk a traitor? U.S. to hold closed-door meeting over whether billionaire is conducting own foreign policy. Why? Well, a story came out that said Elon Musk shut down Starlink, preventing a Ukrainian counteroffensive against Russia. The reality is, there was a request made of Elon Musk to activate Starlink to allow the attack on the Russian flagship fleet. And Elon said, no, they've actually corrected and revised this. The real story. Elon was asked to allow his property, Starlink, to be used as a tool in a military offensive, which could result in World War III. At any rate, would be a dramatic escalation. So now you have this story. U.S. Democrat Elizabeth Warren is demanding an investigation into SpaceX, whose CEO Elon Musk could have disrupted Ukraine's attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet by refusing to connect the Starlink network in occupied Crimea. Bloomberg reported on September 12th. The Congress needs to investigate what's happened here and whether we have the adequate tools to make sure foreign policy is conducted by the government and not by one billionaire. Abject evil. No, that's Elizabeth Warren. Okay. What did Elon Musk do? As a private citizen who has a massive tool, Starlink network of satellites, which I subscribe to, and we have as one of our emergency backups for communication in the event of the shutdown because we're in a moderately rural area. Elon Musk said, you can't use my property for war. And now the government is coming after him. Here's why I say the intelligence agencies are abject evil. Think about everything the left has complained about. Ocean acidification, climate change, carbon emissions in the atmosphere, the garbage patches, racial inequality. All of these things are emboldened by an intelligence apparatus that seeks to serve this country's interests, right? Here's what I really think. I think the United States is a great country, and I think that the intelligence agencies are typically rogue agencies that don't operate under the will of the people. They operate outside of it. To me, that's why I think overtly they are doing things that are evil, because this country must agree on the direction this country goes, and you can't have a permanent state of intelligence agencies deciding what the best thing for this country is. From the liberal perspective, all of the ills of the world you describe are emboldened, empowered, and propped up by the intelligence agencies, which is why I say there is no argument, left or right, as to why you would support the CIA or the FBI. I know too many people who have been let down by federal law enforcement. We personally here at Timcast have been let down. We were swatted 15 times, and they did nothing. And we went to local law enforcement. We worked with interstate. There was, I'm not going to say all the agencies involved, but there were several different departments and law enforcement agencies, and they did nothing. At the very least, I can say, if they did anything, they didn't tell us. Yeah. And then after we resolved some issues, because we believe we know who is doing it, we told them over and over and over again. After some issues were resolved, all of a sudden it stopped. Now they're targeting Elon Musk. And it reminds me of that scene in Iron Man 2, where Tony Stark is at the congressional hearing and they're like, we want the Iron Man weapon. He's like, you can't have it. It's my property. It's me. To go to Elon Musk and say, you built something and we want it for war. I have such tremendous respect for Elon Musk to stare down the U.S. government and say, no, you can't have it. It's funny because Elon Musk was in Iron Man 2. Electric planes or something like that. The chairman of the U.S. Senate Armed Services Committee, Jack Reed, is also concerned about this problem, given that traditionally satellites are controlled by governments and presidents decide what to do with them. Although SpaceX has won Pentagon contracts to launch spy satellites, the company has no defense contracts to use Starlink in Ukraine. Elon Musk secretly, that's what they said, Musk allegedly secretly ordered his engineers to disable Starlink off the coast of Crimea in 2022 to disrupt Ukrainian Defense Forces' attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet. That's not true. Later, Musk claimed he did not turn off the satellite network as it was not active in the air to begin with. He said that while he refused to connect it at Ukraine's request, he did so out of not wanting to be complicit in a major act of war. He stated, as a U.S. citizen, he does not view himself as a traitor, because of his decision. This is where we're at. War against Russia, or you're a traitor. Man, I'm sorry. These people are abject evil. They are evil. You don't get to rule in secret. You can make the arguments, every argument in the world. You can say secrecy in the security state is necessary, and you are naive to think otherwise. That if we don't engage in this conflict, China takes over. Yeah, maybe. So you're doing a piss poor job of justifying anything you've done. And the lies, well, they don't become us. So when you go and try to impeach Donald Trump, this is what you get. You know what would be really interesting for someone like me? You want to convince me that Donald Trump's not the guy? First, no Joe Biden. You do not get to have a Joe Biden, career politician, corrupt as they come, lying every step of the way, and then think I would ever defend you. Let's say you get a Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek runs for president. Vivek wins. Vivek then says, I'm going to level with you on what we're doing with Ukraine and the war. Imagine you get a Vivek who says, there are classified things I cannot reveal. They would compromise the security of this country. We are in an active conflict, and we must keep things secret to prevent a rapid escalation. The conflict is with adversaries of this nation, and for this reason, it is very difficult to break down. If you got a Vivek, someone like him, who was honest and outright just said, I only ask that you trust us, we're doing our best. That would go 100 times further than crackpot, lying, corrupt Joe Biden with everything he's done. And you know what the best you could probably muster out of me? Because I'm not some hardcore libertarian type. I am fairly anti-intervention, but I understand these arguments. If you came to me with a Vivek, someone like him, who said, I know I won't be able to convince you to support our efforts, but I hope you can trust me that we do have the best interests of this country and we are trying our hardest to solve these problems. I would respect that. And I would say, man, it's a tough position to be in. I don't want the war. I don't want our involvement. And you're telling me that there's a legitimate reason for which you can't reveal to the public? I don't know what to tell you, man. I understand. Classified information is required. I don't want China to take over to be the unipolar power in the world. But we don't have that. We don't have someone treating us like adults. We have someone treating us like chickens. And while I'm hard pressed to believe that even someone like Vivek, who's quick-witted and successful and smart and actually has real plans, even if he came and said there is a reason for this, you're never going to get me to support it, because I require direct evidence of something, excuse me, in order to justify conflict that results in death. But at the very least, I can be walked back from the more extreme. There is absolutely no reason. You would lower the resistance of a person like me if you were honest about what it was you really wanted to do. That's all I'm saying. I know there are a lot of people that you can never convince. But the issue we have right now is Joe Biden is corrupt, a corrupt influence peddler. And evidence suggests the intelligence agencies are working at the behest of a man who is compromised because of what he was doing with influence peddling in foreign countries with his family. And now he's desperate to try and cover this up. And we're roped into this conflict in Ukraine for no perceivable reason. There's no evidence here. These organizations, I see them as evil. I see it as threatening Elon Musk, a private citizen, because he won't turn over his property for their war efforts. Unjustified war efforts where they simply say we should be involved in a war with Russia. Why? Tell me why. Come to me and say EU needs cheaper energy to grow to outpace China. And I'll say, interesting. Donald Trump gave us a little bit and I laughed. It's funny. He said, we got soldiers in Syria guarding the oil. And I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, wow, at least they're telling us. I know the state of the world is constant conflict. You may differentiate between active war via declaration and the state of conflict of the world, but I think it's fair to say that we're always at war. If you want to say the line of war is that we're actively shooting at each other, fine. But I do believe that China is engaging in malicious activity against the United States to try and subvert and disrupt us, as is Russia. And unfortunately, the U.S. government cannot expose what they're doing. I know this because we deal with security issues here as well. I cannot come out and tell you every story of the security problems or challenges that we faced. And I can't explain to you how people have tried to wrong us or succeeded in wronging us because it would expose us, which means, intelligence agencies overwhelmingly are working on things you'll never know about, risking their lives to keep you safe and ensure your luxurious way of life. The problem I see, the lies and the manipulations to remove Donald Trump, the exploitation of our goodwill to subvert the will of the people. If Donald Trump was so bad, they could have gone about dealing with Trump in a much more successful, more intelligent way. If the concern is that Donald Trump will lead America down a foreign policy path, which will ultimately allow China to take over, that may be the case. The only problem, I see these corrupt individuals working with China. I see Mike Pompeo under the Trump administration saying that China has infiltrated every level of our country and buying up this land. So right now, the preponderance of evidence suggests, in fact, the intelligence agencies are working with China. And therein lies the big problem. Abject evil. They're not going to be able to justify what they do. And by going after Elon Musk, I think they just prove more and more that they are corrupt entities seeking to manipulate and gain power for their corrupt benefactors. Not all of them. That would be stupid. I've spoken with people who work at intelligence agencies who tell me outright they're scared. They say that the politics inside are the same as outside. There's a lot of people who believe in this country who supported Donald Trump, but they're scared to speak up. It's time for that change, because if y'all start speaking up now, the culture is forced to shift. The reckoning happens. I hope so. I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that I am not an unreasonable person who believes that they are not enemies of the United States. There are certainly good people at the CIA and the FBI who are trying really, really hard to fix things. I know that's true. I'm saying that the people who are running the show there, they are evil people, either because they believe they should be allowed to exercise unrestrained power without the consent of the people, or they're just manipulating the system for personal gain. You tell me which one. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.